What you are watching is the music video for the 2005 hit Gorillaz song Dirty Harry. There are children in the desert singing along happily whilst 2D fires a safety flare into the sky. I have no doubt you've heard this song before, so tell me, what's the song actually about? If you have known this song for over a decade and still have no idea it was about the Iraq War or the War on Terror, you may be a victim of lyrical dissonance. The Gorillaz are one of the biggest bands on the planet. Their very nature is anti-establishment, and the exact reason they are a fake cartoon band was to reflect the views of its creator, Damon Albarn, who saw MTV and the music industry at the time as fake. So how can someone not realise that a band like this, making a song with these lyrics over a music video with military vehicles and children in the Middle East, has nothing to do with war or politics? How does this happen? Well, this is the topic of today's video. What is the music psychology behind people ignoring the deeper political messaging of songs and instead treat them as nothing more than waves of sound to move their body to? Welcome to Glass Gekko, where I dissect the cultural and psychological effects of music history. As I mentioned earlier, a key factor here is a psychological concept called lyrical dissonance. This is the basic idea that the subject matter of a song's lyrics sharply contrast with the emotional sound of the melody itself. When applied to political songs, it has a profound effect. There are three key reasons why this works. The first is auditory hegemony. This is a purely biological reality for most people's brains. Acoustic features in music, such as the tempo or the bass line, major key compositions, things like that reach the brain's emotional motor centre immediately, whereas the content of the lyrics must pass by our logical language processor, Wernicke's area, in the temporal lobe. When a melody is highly pleasant, such as the upbeat rhythm of Dirty Harry, the brain prioritises the emotional benefit of the sound itself. The rhythm literally overrides our critical thinking. Another aspect is what we call cognitive schemas. This is essentially a contextual blindness. We expect to hear about the atrocities of war when we watch a news anchor on TV, but when a happy song comes on, our brains automatically deduce that the context of the lyrics must also be positive. When you're watching a cartoon music video or listening to a gym playlist, your brain is running on an entertainment schema or a workout schema. You subconsciously don't even consider the words to mean anything different to the mood and the melody, especially if you're distracted. The third aspect is the Trojan Horse effect. The thing is, many artists actually use this tool intentionally. They sugarcoat their melodies so their serious messages of anti-war suffering can be played on mainstream radios and still be allowed publication and mainstream sales, where they would otherwise be banned or censored. For example, the lyrical implications of Dirty Harry are actually much darker and more poignant than a lot of punk songs, but Dirty Harry can be played in a bowling alley, whereas punk is censored in most social settings. On top of these immediate psychological reasons in line with music itself, there are also reasons with our broader nature. Human beings will generally try to censor depressing information for their own mental health. How often do you hear people say, "Well, I don't really like watching the news because it's too depressing, it's always just bad news"? Well, it's a nuanced point, but the news generally depicts reality. To ignore it completely is not academically wise, but from a psychological perspective, it is necessary for some people to maintain their worldview. When people listen to anti-war songs wrapped up in a sugar-coated melody, they literally do not want to admit to themselves that bad things happen and need to be talked about. Their brains actively reject the message, even if they technically recognise it. Similar to this point, people who are not educated in these topics will not understand the context without literally being told. Anyone can sit down and understand a news anchor is educating them and explaining a conflict, but if you don't even know what the Iraq War was or why it happened, how would you know it's being referenced in Dirty Harry, and why would you care? The Gorillaz are far from the only example, but it is a fascinating example of a major song which is often misunderstood. A song which features heavy cognitive schema but has also been recognised for it is Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. For decades, politicians and stadium crowds have co-opted this track as a thumping patriotic anthem across nationwide stadium tours. Many times has the song been used in the context of positive messaging and patriotic fervour, but of course the irony is the lyrics are openly criticising the US government. A protest song campaigning for the working man, whose brother was sent to Vietnam to die, whilst he himself finds no employment prospects, just abandonment and isolation. Due to the nature of the song wiring your brain to immediately associate it with full stadiums and arena tours and American flags, your brain files it away as a basic concert track. But this song is an example of a song which got so big, its deeper message inevitably came out. Then there is 99 Luftballons by Nena. The song is an 80s synth pop hit, which I remember playing as a kid on Donkey Konga with these things. Anyone else remember these? That was a crazy time. But yes, the song is a great literal example of lyrical dissonance by definition. It is actually about toy balloons floating over the Berlin Wall, triggering a false radar signal, starting nuclear apocalypse and worldwide genocide, highlighting the very real and terrifying geopolitical reality of the world at the height of the Cold War, happily repeated in a modern world as a fun and catchy pop song. I focused heavily on anti-war political songs, but this psychological event is true in many other songs too. Hey Ya by Outkast is actually about the complete deterioration of modern love and modern dating culture to one of the catchiest beats of all time, and Viva La Vida is actually about the violent execution of King Louis XVI and a poetic interpretation of his life story. But the song is performed over a romantic and grand beat which would signal victory and triumph rather than a violent demise. There has always been a section of people who will look deeper and try to understand the actual meaning of these songs, but in all these cases, the mainstream generally accepted them for their melody and ignored the meaning of their words. The effects of this are rather twofold. In one sense, lyrical dissonance can actually be a benefit to the artist and the message. As I say before, when a song is too dark in melody and nature, it can be censored. It can have little playtime and it can be actively rejected by many. But due to the Trojan Horse, many serious messages can be inserted into the mainstream and eventually become a talking point. On the counterview, however, the widespread phenomenon of lyrical dissonance means that even if the songs top the charts, the majority of people will ignore or not even understand the deeper messaging the artist is trying to convey. It forces uncomfortable realities into the mainstream, and in some cases allows for a broader discussion. When it comes to tangible results, well, I would recommend looking at my conclusion in my anti-war songs video, but to cut a long story short, the measurable effects are minimal. Lyrical dissonance essentially ensures the music industry will keep chugging at the same intellectual depth it always has done on the mainstream stage. This may not be ideal, but whatever you think of it, the psychology behind it is fascinating nonetheless. So the next time you listen to your favourite track, maybe ask deeper, is there something else the artist is trying to convey? If you enjoyed this dive into music psychology and music culture, be sure to click the playlist on screen at the moment and be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this one. But for now, I've been Gekko and thank you so much for watching.